Welcome everyone to this evening's meeting. Everyone is in attendance, and that's always good news, except our youngster, Mr. Robinson. He's not here. But we do have our young lady here this evening. So, like I have advised her, she has to leave by 7:30. I thought we'd be done by then, but if we aren't, I would recommend someone move her ahead so she can get out here by 7:30. Okay, thank you very much. So I'll call the meeting to order and ask if there's any declarations of conflict of interest amongst the council members. No, thank you very much. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Rogier.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief comment. This is for council's information, but more importantly for public information as well. As returning officer, I recently certified the list of candidates for the 2018 municipal election. And as a result, this current council is now considered subject to the restrictions imposed by Section 275 of the Municipal Act. And those provisions are otherwise known as the lame duck provisions. So what does it mean to be a lame duck council? And once again, this is for the public information as well. Essentially, there's 4 restrictions. So certain acts of council will be restricted by the Municipal Act going forward from this point until December 3rd, 2018, which is when the new term of council begins. So there's basically 4 restrictions. The first one is that council cannot appoint or remove from office any officer of the municipality. Secondly, any hiring or dismissals of employees of the municipality are prohibited. Thirdly, any disposals of real or personal property which has a value exceeding $50,000. And then the 4th restriction it relates to any expenditures over $50,000. Now those are the restrictions. There's 3 exceptions. The first 2 would be more commonplace, and the last one would be more on the rare side. The first exception is if the disposition or the liability was included in the most recent budget of council, obviously adopted before July 27th, which was the close of nominations, July 27th, 2018. The second one is if administration, the authority for administration, any actions that were, if any actions were previously authorized by council or previously delegated by council prior to July 27th. So for example, our delegation of authority bylaw has already delegated certain acts that administration can take. And secondly, if there were any previous resolutions of council authorizing that particular expenditure or action prior to July 27th, then those 4 restrictions, there would be an exception to that. The third one relates to allowing a municipality or council to take any action in the event of an emergency. This would be narrowly defined. The definition that it's usually given is the same definition that's used under the Emergency Management and Civil Procedure or Civil Protection Act. And so that would be for the rarest of occasions. But essentially, those are the 4 exceptions. So it's just the 3 exceptions, and the restricted acts are the 4 that I named. And that's about it. I just wanted to provide that information for council and for public this evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If I may, are there any questions from council with regards to that? I just had the one, you made the statement, sir, that the 27th was the deadline, but as of 3 days later, that's not official until you go over all the application. So
yes.
So does that mean the 27th, or does it mean that would be the 30th?
It would be upon certification. So the clerk has the option to certify any time after the 27th up until 4 o'clock on July 30th. So I certified on the 30th. So it would be, once that was certified, I knew the numbers that we had and the possible numbers of returning council members on the new council. And I was able to make that determination at that time.
But you'd said as of the 27th, anything that happened after that, you can't, but
right. So
it would be the 30th?
It would be the 30th,
okay.
Yes.
Fine, thank you.
Item 4 on the agenda, adoption of published agenda for this August 7th council meeting.
Councillor Rogers and Councillor Bondi, any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
5.1, adoption of the regular council meeting minutes from July 16th, 2018.
Councillor Snively and Councillor Rogers, any questions? Councillor Vokes.
Is this a point where I can put in a notice of motion for the next meeting?
Well, it's up to you, Mr. Chair. We have adopted the published agenda for this evening.
It should have been done before, but yes.
Thank you.
Now it'd be okay.
Thank you. I've been trying to get a bench for the residents from the long-term care facility at Isler Lodge, because
Okay, sir, I got to stop you there, Councillor. You just make your notice of motion.
Okay,
and
can I?
no discussion.
I'll have a notice motion for the next meeting to get a bench for the long-term care facility residents of Isler Lodge as they go to the park, because I got no place to sit.
Okay, thank you for that, sir.
Okay.
Got that?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, and vote.
Oh, yeah.
Just a vote.
We had a mover for 5.1, Councillor Rogers and Councillor Snively. All in favor of that motion? Motion carries.
5.2, adoption as circulated of the minutes of the July 23rd special council meeting.
Moved by Councillor Bjorkman, supported by Councillor Rogers. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 6, under public presentations this evening, we have resident Mr. David Cassidy here to speak to the procurement policy.
David, Mr. Cassidy, you're up, sir. Just a reminder, you have 5 minutes, Dave.
Pardon? Yeah,
5 minutes.
won't be long. So thank you for allowing me to speak. Last week while I was out of town, I watched the YouTube video of the previous council meeting, and I was floored actually when I watched the council meeting on the issue about our roads, and specifically the contract with Gore Road and the 8th concession. So thank you for allowing me to meet the criteria to get in to speak. I'm not sure if it's really on procurement as much as money spent, et cetera, on different processes. So when I was watching the video, and I can only take it from watching the video as to what happened because I wasn't here, the issue around the cold-rolled recycled asphalt process versus the pulverized stone, tar, and chip. And I did see in the presentation, the conversations back and forth, where administration had said that we don't want to have to fix the base based on the cold-rolled and, based on that process. And everybody knows that the pulverized that's been around for years obviously fixes the base. So my questions are very specific based on the specs. When one looks at that video and goes through the process, the questioning, et cetera, one has to ask why local companies who do it all the time around here, do fixing of our roads and maintaining our roads, don't bid on the process. That's probably the biggest issue. I look at what the numbers were that came in, and it looks in excess of 180,000 to go to a company outside of Windsor, Essex County.
Okay. Excuse me, Dave, please. You've got to stick to the procurement policy, not comparing my bid against his or why I didn't, why I couldn't. like, I've got things that aren't allowed in regards to what you're here for. You can shut his clock off because he's going to get his full 5 minutes or restart it, okay? Thank you. But if you'd like me to read the 4 things that you can't speak to about this project, I can read them to you. And you could just throw those off.
Of my list?
I have a list here.
Do you want to stop me if I touch it again?
Okay, that's one of them. Comparing
The
prices.
specs, I was asking about the specs specifically.
Oh, I
The
thought-
specs specifically.
Okay. I thought
And,
it
and
was
based
about-
on the specs,
Okay.
based on the specs and the $180,000 differential, can somebody explain,
Dave, that's the problem. You can't compare these prices with those prices. That's what I'm saying. That is all done in the process. They look at everything, as do the companies that are going to bid on this.
Good point.
You're not here
so the
to-
specs relative to the process, I guess I would ask the question, is the process on the coal road tested? Is it a process that other municipalities use? Is it a better process because we have the data that it was tested on versus the pulverized stone, tar, and chip? So that's the first question, on the specs and the process, okay? The second one, Chris did mention about disturbing the base. He didn't want to disturb the base. And that would be a direct correlation, once again, to the data on the test results that was taken. Obviously, we've done test results to say that that's a better process than what we've been doing for probably longer than I've been alive, in the 50 years that I've been alive. And another thing that was brought up in the video, and listen, I can only go by the video, so, you know, the video tells the truth. I mean, I watched the video. I mean, I live a boring life, so I had time to watch a video. And back in October or November, I'm not sure the exact month, but I know that this council up here, I understand that the lame duck, because I was writing down with the 4 points where you talked about the lame duck, but this council passed the budget in 2017, in October, November of 2017, on road repairs, different things based on our whole budget. And now we're under the gun, jeopardizing the season that came out of that video for the 218 road maintenance of what we have to get done because of what the timelines are, et cetera. So, I mean, you're going to probably cut me off again on this issue, but it's just interesting that when we go to the issue around the specs, it's troublesome when people who have invested a ton of money in their equipment that they have locally here don't have the process in place to be able to do that process, and we have to send it somewhere else, when in fact there was no data based on what the process is and how much better it is that we would go out of town to utilize that process. So those are basically, because the questions relative to that, and I'm sure that council's going to hopefully have some discussion and debate around that, because the facts of the matter are, it is $180,000 cheaper to use the other process.
Okay. Now, Dave, those are the
Thank you.
end of your questions?
Thank you.
Okay, those are we're going to try to get the answers for you if Mr. Nipsey was jotting them down, if he can answer them, because I can't answer your questions, and I'm not so sure that anyone else on council has your answers. But I think as being an engineer, Mr. Nipsey can probably answer all of your questions. So, Mr. Nipsey, if you can. Well, not all, okay. Please.
Through your worship, I don't know if I can answer all of them, but I can certainly try. Where do I start? I guess I don't know. I guess the direction council wants me to proceed. This is something I've been over with council through you, your worship, for the last 4 years. If you want me to reiterate how that process is chosen and why, I can. As he noted, a lot of those answers were in the video that he watched. In terms of an approved rehabilitation process, absolutely it is. There's an Ontario provincial spec for that. In terms of why local contractors don't do the work, I can't speak to that. Similarly, we tender pickup trucks every year. Not everybody from this municipality or even from this county bid on our pickup trucks. Why don't they do that? I don't know. They can do the process, they choose not to bid on it. I can't speak to why they choose not to bid on this. You have different processes over the years that different contractors couldn't do. You know, pulverizing. There were people that didn't own pulverizing equipment 3 years ago, had to be contracted out. Now there's people that own their own pulverizing equipment. They can do that as part of their works. So that I can't speak to in terms of why they don't bid it. They can do it. They have the equipment to do it. I don't know if it's not a big enough job for them. I'm not sure. I haven't asked those questions. In terms of choosing the process, absolutely it's an approved process. You have a representative from the contracting company that's recommended for the works tonight on the report that you have tabled. If that's somebody you choose to listen to tonight, that's up to you. If you have some very technical questions, I know in terms of where else they've done it in the municipality, that's probably something that he could speak to. So that's something I offer to council if they would like to hear that representative speak. When looking at this process, I guess I liken it to when you're buying a car. I know Mr. Cassie has brought up better or worse. I've never said better, I've never said worse. I've always said different. It's a different application. We've got 5 different applications that we use here in the town of Essex. When you go shopping for a car, maybe you want a minivan. I don't think you go pricing pickups or sedans. You want a minivan. They both can transport you to A and B. They both carry stuff. They both tow stuff. Different applications maybe. They're both approved vehicles. I'm frustrated on my end because I've dealt with this, you know, again, we've done this process. This is the 4th year this has come to council. No issues the last 2 years. I'm not sure what's changed in council's mind in terms of the technicality of the road and the engineering of it the last 2 years. So I think I've touched on some of Mr. Cassie's answers or questions. I don't know if I've answered them to the fullest. I don't know if I can exactly. But please, if there's something I missed, by all means.
Well, I don't know. I just actually met Derek tonight. Derek got my name from somebody that wanted to call me. I didn't get a chance to talk to Derek today based on the process, but as a taxpayer in the town of Essex, my issue becomes data. Everything has to be data driven, whether or not. If Chris is the expert, which he is the expert, he has road experts, me as a taxpayer is not the expert, so I did a little research. I called Lakeshore. I said, Lakeshore, can you use it? Do you use it? Lakeshore doesn't use it because it's too expensive. So then I'm asking myself, why is Essex going to use it? Why is Essex going to use it? Is it a better process? Is the process better because I mean, I listen to Chris say, I love to cement all the roads. I watched the video. I love to do that, but it doesn't come within our budget. So the other process, the other question that I was just hoping might have got touched on is the one on the budget. The budget was passed in October or November of 2017, and here we are in August of 2018, and we're at crunch time when we could have had this completed prior to. Maybe, listen, maybe I know everybody's busy around town doing other things, but I don't know why council today is under a crunch to get this to move forward so that we can get it in on this process.
Okay, Mr. Nepsey?
Through your worship, in terms of, I hear the $180,000, I've heard that the last 2 meetings. I am not sure where that comes from because, as everyone's well aware, there was no second bidder on this job. So where the $180,000 comes from, where you've gotten that, I have no idea. I know in terms of the last 3 years,
I got it from the video.
Mr. Cassie, I have the floor.
I got it from the video.
So nobody else bid the job, so those numbers aren't available to me or to council. The last few years, the prices have been close, including shouldering, including third lifts of tar and chip. I think in the first year, this treatment was slightly cheaper. I think depending on how emulsion prices fluctuate and how the wrap material fluctuates, you get slight differences of prices, but they're in the ballpark. It's not like comparing asphalt to tar and chip or concrete to tar and chip. And again, they're similar prices with respect to the vehicle analogy I used. You know, a station wagon or a pickup. very similar in terms of what they can do for you. Prices vary and fluctuate. So in terms of pricing goes, I can't answer that. In terms of, what was the second point that you brought?
The budget.
The budget. In terms of the timing on the budget, administration had no reason to believe that we would have to go through 2 or 3 meetings to get through this approval process, as this process has been approved without question or without comment the last 2 years. So there was no reason to believe that we would be here at this time. So in terms of managing and all the procurement that goes on, this was not put as something that, oh, we're going to have 3 or 4 months of debate on this. We better get this out. It was put in the process and the queue of things to get done, and that's where we're at right now.
Okay, David?
To the point of the 180,000?
Okay,
That's the YouTube
Can I
video.
say something about that one?
Yeah.
You said you heard it. I heard it 2 weeks ago, too. I haven't got a clue who said it, but just like Mr. Nepsey said, where'd that come from? When we have one bidder, how do we get a difference of $180,000? I couldn't understand that either, but I did hear it the same as you did.
Okay.
Where'd it come from?
I wasn't dreaming.
Oh, you want to know where it came from?
Well, you have your website. You have your website that shows the bids on the website. You can see what the bids are yeah, you can see what the bids are. But it came up through YouTube is where it is.
You want to know where that came from, that figure? It was in an email sent by someone who didn't bid on the job. That's where the figure came from.
Call it on your YouTube, Tote.
In an email.
Or your
But-
worship.
pardon?
Or call it on your YouTube when you get a chance.
Bill.
Good.
But it's in this email that we got from someone who resides in our municipality. That's where the figure came from. It's in the email here. We got the proof.
That it is 180,000?
It said, I think, 150,000. I don't know where the 180 came from. Probably a council member, and I'm not picking on anyone, but that's, I think, where it came from.
I wouldn't
Because
make
it didn't
that-
come from administration. I know that,
Well,
so I don't know.
I'm not sure I'd make that
We have a
accusation.
couple of questions, maybe to you, Dave, if you want to just sit there. I have Mr. Councilor Nepsey and then Councilor Vokes. Sorry, Councilor Bjorkman, right next door to Mr. Nepsey.
Thank you, through your worship. To the procurement and to the different ways of having these roads done, my question would be to Mr. Nepsey. I too was absent for that meeting, so I watched the video. The statement was made that the entire roads department was unanimous in choosing this type of procedure to do these 2 roads. So part of that question was, as far as data, was this a data-driven decision? So my question just would be, as your department was unanimous in it, what drove you to say that this particular process was the one for this road?
Mr. Nepsey?
Yeah, through your worship, in terms of these roads here, the Gore and the 8th, again, it gets into the concern with opening it up in the base. We've had some issues where we've pulverized roads and opened them up, and you never know what you're going to get into. So there's the concern with that. These roads, they've found a happy place. They've lost a little bit of their shape. There's no issues in terms of drainage, bank destabilization. There's no issues with respect to those things pushing. So we thought that the fact that they're in a happy state, they found their place where they're not moving, that we would have to do minimal profiling and be able to use this process to fill in the wheel rutting and be on our way. With respect to some of our other roads, as I noted in the last meeting, you know, they're at a state where they need to be pulverized, and those roads were budgeted and tendered to do that as well. So you've got roads to do the pulverizing, tar and chip, or add stone and do tar and chip as well within this year's budget.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Vokes?
Thank you, Chair. Look at there's an elephant in the room, obviously, right? And I don't think it's no secret who we're talking about in terms of what opportunities can this particular company afford as opposed to other companies from outside of our immediate area. And I'm not going to mention no names, but I think everybody in here, I think we know who we're talking about without actually mentioning the name. So why is that particular company concerned. If you're open-minded to his concerns, the main reason he's concerned, because like me, he's a taxpayer, first and foremost. Secondly to that, he puts thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars back into his community. On top of that, he employs 60 to 70 employees that also participate, also pay taxes in our community, reside in our community. And then on top of it all, his process has been proven over and over and over again to work in other municipalities. And then when you compare that bottom line, and I'll talk about the money, because I got all the right in the world as an elected official to talk about the money. And when you talk about the significant difference in terms of what he can do it for, as to what others can do it for, in terms of past history of his product, in terms of past history of others' product, in terms of longevity, it stands the test of time and it's of equal value. So as a taxpayer, Randy Vokes at 63 South Talbot has no interest in paying $180,000 for another process.
Point of order, Mr.
Sure, go ahead, have your point of order.
Councillor, we have no evidence that there's $150,000 or $180,000 difference. The figure you're talking about, and this gentleman who you're talking about, is after the fact. He did not bid. How do we know what he would have bid? You're telling me what he would have bid because that's probably what he told you through that email.
He didn't tell me, point of order.
My point
of order. He didn't tell me through an email.
Listen.
He told all of us.
If you don't stop, you're going to be removed. You know that. I'm giving you a warning right now, so not another word. I have the floor, not you.
Okay.
You'll get it back. What I'm saying, this 150 or 180 that's thrown out there, we don't know that for a fact. You're telling us, or you want to say, I want to save 150 or 180,000 too. Put the bid in and then tell me that this person or any one of these people that didn't put their bid in is different. It's 150,000 cheaper. Do it and see. Then we'll know that that's the figure I would have done. Not after the fact. Oh, I could have done it for 200,000 cheaper than that. But anyways, we don't need that stuff that isn't factual, is all I'm saying. That's my point of order. So stick to the true issues. Don't, you know.
Okay.
So you have the floor.
When I have a local businessman who's been in the industry for 35 years, suggest to all of us, not me, all of us in an email, that he could do it considerably cheaper, then that alone is reason enough for me to take this issue and file it. Until equal opportunity is given for him to bid on the process based on a specification change. Because I have no willingness to spend that type of money based on his experience, based on what he put in the email. And if he's off by 20%, which I don't think he is, but if he is, I still don't have a willingness. Because you're talking about a difference of $36,000 at 20%. So now you're down to approximately $145,000. Now, if this council wants to spend that money, then go ahead. I won't be along for the ride, and I'll leave it at that. And I hope this council wouldn't either.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? Councillor Snively.
Through your worship, I would like to have a chance to listen to Norjon, representative here, and just to explain the process and how long that process has been out. And with that, I'm in agreement with, I'm strong on local people doing our work. Very strong on that. But there is a process here in place. We do have somebody, Mr. Nepsey, we hire a professional to do it. That is his job, and I respect, you know, we put him in place to send out the tender. And to Jeff, I'll tell you right to your face, you know I want you to have all the business, but it doesn't work that way. If I could hear more, John.
Point of order.
Okay.
I'm going to ask that nobody specifically be mentioned unless a motion is allowed to the floor to let Mr. Shepley speak. to attack him as a member here tonight in the audience under the assumption it's him.
Nobody's attacking him.
You are attacking him.
Nobody's
Councillor
attacking him.
Snively, hold this. Hey, listen, he has the floor, Councillor Snively, and your point of order is
My point of
no more
order is
language.
that I'm going to ask
Like
council not to direct anybody in the audience
That's right.
unless it's profoundly proven that's a particular person we're talking about. And if it is a person, then I'm going to put a motion forward that he be allowed to speak equally on his process, just like Norjohn gets to speak. So if we're allowing the representative from Norjohn to speak on their process, it's only fair that the person that is under the assumption tonight in the audience, he should have equal opportunity to speak on his product and what it would mean to the savings of council. So let's be fair, people.
Okay, so I'm listening to his point of order, but further to his, and no more names, but further to that, who are we talking about? You're talking about letting somebody speak who we're not supposed to be talking about. Nobody knows who it is.
We do now. We do now.
Yes, I want to hear a comment from the clerk before I come back to you, Councillor Snively.
Are you done with me?
CEO.
Through you, Your Worship, I just want to say that neither Mr. Shepley nor the gentleman from Norjohn should be allowed to speak. That is lobbying according to our bylaw. They are not supposed to address council from the day that tender is posted to the day that tender is awarded. So I am going to suggest that nobody here that is going to speak to this project should speak.
Further to that,
Thank
Your
you
Worship,
very
I
much.
respect that and I'll withdraw.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? Any comments, questions? Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This roads issue has kind of taken up a lot of my long weekend, unfortunately, and I've done a lot of homework on this, and I think, to me, where I'm at the point is, I'm at the point where I think we don't pull it from the table. We leave it on the table until January 1st, 2019. Let the new council deal with it, because there's a lot of politics going on. We're entering the lame duck, we're in the lame duck season, so this is a $550,000 decision. We've been accused of lobbying. There's so much going on that I don't know why we wouldn't just pause it. We put the money in reserve. We make it a priority bid, which I don't think we did. This bid for this job can go out January 1st, 2019. We can be competitive. We might be able to save $40,000 by putting it out early and being competitive in the market. Hey, $40,000 is $40,000. That's a streetscape plan. That's a splash pad maintenance for a year. I'm up for that. I do have some further questions, but I think at this point, the number one concern of this council is being fiscally responsible, and going ahead with a single source bid of a specialized product is really concerning for me. I'm not looking to make any enemies here at this council chambers, but I'm looking to watch out for our taxpayers and their concerns. And if I went to them and said there's a possibility we could get it for $40,000 less, I think that they would agree with us, especially with all of the turmoil and the lame duck status that we have in this council chambers. I think it is a responsible decision of this council. We have to take some responsibility here and make the right decision. And I think there's a lot of personalities and politics and drama here. I did look on the website, and I have a question through you, Mr. Chair, to, I don't know, our CEO or Mr. Nepsey about why, when I pulled up the bid was showing $609,000 from Norjohn, and then I see that the budget was $556,000, and the job is actually would be awarded if council approved it for $549,000. So I see the discrepancies between the bid was opened in the room, posted and taken in at $609,000. Then the report on our council agenda says $549,000, and we know our budget is $556,000. So the optics of what we could look into could look really bad. And we just got slapped with a legal bill from awarding something with golf. I do not want to get into that again. This council does not need that. We need to keep our heads straight. And so I want to know why on our website the bid says $609,000, but it's awarded at $549,000.
I have the answer here, I believe. Our CAO has the answer.
Through you, Your Worship, the amount that you see on the website includes HST. The amount in the report is net of the HST refund, so they're different. 13% is what we pay, and then at the end of the day, when we get a refund, what we paid was 1.76.
Okay, thank you, through you to the chair. So was our approved capital budget inclusive of HST 2? Like, what did we approve in the budget then?
Mr. Nepsey?
Matt, I mean, we all answer, the budget has the applicable taxes included in it. So the net HST rebate, 1.0176, or 1.76%. So the budget includes that, yes. The budget does not include HST, though. It does include 13%.
Okay, thank you. I have to process that. It might take me another long weekend. So anyways, I think it's the right thing to do. I hear Mr. Cassidy's concerns about spending taxpayer dollars on a specialized product. That's it in a nutshell, right? Is this council equipped to deal with that? I do feel the tenders could have gone out earlier. Council could have been more aware of the specs. For where I sat before, I believe, and I know council moved on, but Councillor Vokes, Councillor Snively, and Councillor Bondi, myself, were not in favor of this product before. I drove down each and every road today that was listed on the map. And yeah, there's some hot asphalt that has mixes too, that has burps and hiccups too, but the third concession is not a road I would want to do the 8th concession in. It's not something, I don't know, and I don't know if we have that data, but I'm willing to leave it on the table, and I think that's the only fiscally responsible, anti-political thing we can do here tonight, because there's too much politics in this room.
Mr. Cassidy, any final word before I let you go?
Hey, I just want to say, just for the record, tonight was my first night that I got to meet, that everybody's talking about, the Jeff Shepley here, by the way. When I walked in, I got to meet Jeff Shepley. So anybody thinks that I'm lobbying Jeff Shepley or on behalf of him for procurement or anything else, I met him tonight. And it's nice to see that Ed Smith's here, because Ed Smith went through the same crap about 3 years ago, if you recall, Councillor Bondi. We had this big issue about the roads and everything else. And I'm glad that they're hooked up, and hopefully one day the town of Essex will realize that if we keep a procurement policy to buy locally, that we'll be successful as well. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
You can shut that off, David, if you would. The mic, thank you. Anything further to this? Because, well, what Councillor Bundy had to say, I have a few comments myself with regards to that, but that'll come up later. Okay. And Councillor Bjorkman supports. All in favor? Motion carries.
7.1 on the agenda is unfinished business, is Infrastructure and Development Report 2018-12. At the July 16th meeting, Council moved to receive and award the request for tender. Discussion ensued on the pending question, and Council then moved to lay the question on the table to the August 7th meeting. Any further discussion or consideration of this report at this time would require a motion to take same from the table.
Okay. Is anyone prepared to have it removed from table? Seeing none and hearing none, I make a motion to bring it back from table to be discussed this evening. Looking for a seconder. If we get no seconder, Councillor Snively. Okay, for discussion. Anyone have any comments? Councillor Vokes? And just let me remind all council, this is a motion that's on the floor now. One time. You speak one time to it. That's it. Okay, so I have Councillor Vokes.
Thank you, Chair. So at the last meeting, we broke from that meeting with the intent of everybody was to go out and do their homework. That was the reason why we recessed. Every councillor, every deputy mayor, every mayor was to excuse themselves from this meeting and go out and do their homework in terms of comparables, processes, everything. I've done my homework. And I have a stick here that I'm going to ask that I submit to the clerk for viewing purposes on the screen. Because it's my homework that I was told to do.
Through you, Mr. Chair, firstly, just a procedural point. We moved and seconded on the motion to take from the table. There's normally not discussion, but we still require a vote on that.
I thought we voted. Okay.
No, we still need a vote just to formally bring that back.
Oh, okay. I got you. And then we can discuss.
Sure.
Okay, all in favor of bring, oh,
Yes, just for clarification, we're voting to bring it back from the table?
To discuss.
Okay. To discuss.
Yes.
Can we have a recorded vote? Okay.
Rogers asked for a recorded vote. Yep, sir.
So on the question to, on the question to take the resolution R18-07349, which was to receive and award the request for tender, to take that from the table. Councillor Rogers, how do you vote?
Opposed.
Councillor Snively?
Opposed.
Councillor Bondi?
Opposed.
Mayor McDermott?
In favor?
Pardon me, hold on, this is just to discuss. We're done.
This is to actually take it back from the table so that discussion can take place.
Support.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm sorry, Councillor Snively, support?
What are we going to do?
And let me just start over to make sure. Councillor Rogers, opposed. Councillor Snively, support. Councillor Bondi, opposed. Mayor McDermott, support. Deputy Mayor Milosh, support. Councillor Vokes,
Support.
support. And Councillor Bjorkman.
Support.
So on the question, with a vote of 5 in support and 2 opposed, the motion carries to take this resolution back from the table for
And-
discussion.
And I'll just remind you again, you get to speak once on it because it is a motion. And Councillor Vokes, I have.
Thank you, Chair. So once again, at the conclusion of the last meeting, we were told to leave here, gather our information. Anyways, with all that being said, I have 2 30-second videos here I would like council to view. And then I have a follow-up after the viewing of these videos. It's just a stick you put in.
It'll play in slow.
That's it. Again, there's no sound, there's no narrating. Just watch, concentrate on the video, on the road, as much as you can possibly.
Point of information, Councillor Vokes, what road is this?
This is the 9. Okay, that's good. You can stop there, Rob. And then just go to 16 then, please. just outside there. That's good, Rob. Thank you. So I appreciate the opportunity of submitting that. And my question to council in terms of making your decision on this particular file is very simple. Which one was done by Norjohn and which one was done by Shepley Excavating? Based on looking at it, based on durability, based on longevity, based on deterioration in what you've seen in those videos. And my point is, neither one of them are in deplorable condition. They're actually both in great condition. So credits go to both companies. Great credits go to both companies. And I say that with the utmost respect. But as a responsible council, based on what you've seen there, you have a decision whether or not you want to spend tentatively, I say tentatively, a significant amount of money more as a responsible council. Your call, your decision. You've seen the video. You've seen the road. Both were done in approximately the same time period. Both by two different processes. But both of them are in still great shape today. And I'll leave it at that. It's your responsibility, your call. I know where I'm going.
Anyone else have any comments? Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep it quick because I think everybody knows where I stand. I believe I will be voting against going forward with receiving and supporting the report because I believe that the roads as they stand right now are not going to fall apart. I believe we can tender them in 2019, January 1st, 2nd, whenever we get back to work. And I believe that new council of the day, whoever that is come November, can do a roads tour and decide on what they want in terms of specs. My job tonight, right now, is to make sure that I am being fiscally responsible for the constituents. And I've done my homework on this issue, and to me, it's not about one product over the other. It's about more time. It's time sensitive. There is a lot to understand, and one bid is sole sourcing is kind of, I feel like it's expensive. So I think we can be more competitive if we do not accept this bid and we put it out in January. And I'll like to see a recorded vote on that too, Mr. Mayor.
If that's a motion, I'll second it.
I don't think.
Wasn't a motion. We have a motion on the floor right now. That's Councillor Bjorkman.
Thank you, Your Worship. As I said, I too was absent at the last meeting, but I did watch the video, and frankly was somewhat embarrassed at the length of time and the tone of that discussion. This is about the process. That's what all this is about. It's about which process is the right process for these roads. As a council, we have staff that recommend to us what needs to be done. We have people that we pay that are professionals. That's the route that normally these things will go in. I asked the question, why did we go for the one over the other? And I was given a reason by our administration. They have a rationale for their decision. There's previous data. There's a history. This isn't a new process. It's new in our area, but it's not a new process. This process is done all over the province. I've done my homework as well to look into that. We've used it successfully, and we created a budget
for our roads projects this year, and this project falls directly in the budget. It's the one that was received because it's the only one locally or in the area that does the process. Our other businesses that are in the area don't do this process. But it's a process that is going to be done. This process is going to be done again and again in this area. And if people want to be in on this process, then that's part of doing business. You've got to expand into that. We have other times where we use shave and pave. We have other times we use pulverize. And we have other times where we go to, we're going to do bike lanes. Sometimes they're in tar, sometimes they're in cement for sidewalks. Everything has a process. Our team decides what the best process is for that particular project. I don't have the ability to question that. I don't have another price. If we went with the other price, well, the reason that we're not going with that route is that's not the correct process for these two roads. It is the correct process for others. So I will be supporting this motion. And I would go so far as to say there's only two reasons, really, for us, our administration here, to exclude other people, to not allow something else to be built. Are they trying to exclude someone intentionally around here? Or is there any personal gain in it for them? If we think that there's a problem in our administration where they're doing things that aren't above board, we should be looking at them. I don't think that's part of this here. I've been on this job now for 3.5 years. It's our responsibility. We were elected to do this work. It was our budget to take care of this year, and we need to make that decision, not put it off. So I will be supporting this motion.
Yes, sir. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, through your worship. I was glad that Councillor Vokes brought those two videos in. I'm glad to see that the people that we have maintaining our roads are doing an excellent job that gives us roads that are that smooth in driving. So that's good to see. What I don't see, though, I see the end product in that it's good now. I don't see what the starting point was in those videos. That's what the contractor had to deal with starting out, like how bad they were. I've driven down some of those roads before they were fixed. Both roads were in pretty sad shape, but perhaps in sad shape for different reasons. And that's what that's what we pay our administration to look at. We pay our administration to take a look at the roads, figure out what needs to be done, and some processes are obviously more expensive than others. And probably in some instances it's a gamble as far as what they believe would be the best process to use and whether it's going to actually last longer or not last longer. But they probably have some pretty good solid evidence as per cases that are going on across Ontario. I know that our engineers and our roads department don't act in a silo. They look at other communities and what they're doing. They look at the experts that are at Roma to try and figure out, what is trying to educate themselves through different programs that they have at Roma. They look at the county and see what the county's trying to do to try and improve what we're doing here as far as how we can make our roads last longer and get the best bang for our dollar. Some processes may cost more, but in the end, the initial cost is worth it because we get more out of the road, or we have to put less input into the road. I know Chris has said that this one particular roads, he's concerned about opening it up and disturbing what's underneath because right now it's working, and it just needs to be, doesn't need to be opened up and repulverized for those reasons. But we could get into more costs, I think, if we open it up and find out that we don't have what we would hope that we have there. So there's all kinds of reasons why our roads department would pick one process over another, but I'm not an expert as far as what I believe the roads what process should be used on the road. I have educated myself over the years. I've had a number of people talk to me about different processes. I do believe I have a good understanding of what the processes are, but our roads department does as well, and they're tagged with the responsibility of trying to figure out how we're going to get the best bang for our dollar on doing these roads. And even though it's more expensive, perhaps, than another process, they believe, based on experience and based on other communities' experiences, that this is the best process to use in these instances. Although it's more expensive, in the long run, it's hopefully going to be less expensive. So it's not like throwing good money after bad. We're paying a higher price, yes, but it's because we're going to get some longer longevity out of it that perhaps we wouldn't with another process. Or it's going to curtail the problem that we have with that road rather than another process that wouldn't curtail the problem that we have with those roads. So I'm willing to move forward on this. I'd like to see the 8th and the Gore completed this year. I'm willing to move forward on the hedge that our administration and our roads department know what they're doing. That's what we pay them for. I don't want to have to come back and second guess our administration on everything that they do. I believe that we should move forward on this, have this done in the 2008 budget. And that's where I stand. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. Anyone else? Still have Councillor Rogers, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For what it's worth, I'd just like to express my feelings that when we do go through procurement process, I believe that we should be speccing processes that can accommodate our local contractors as best as possible, and only move out to other specifications when it's absolutely necessary to do so. That's what I feel, and I do agree with Councillor Bondi. I think maybe this should, because it's so politicized right now, maybe we should be putting this off until next year. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Snively, I think you're the only one left, and me. You're fine. Okay, well, I guess I better vacate my chair because I'm going to give you my decision, and that may, you know, what I've heard in the past, try to sway you people to come my way. Anyways.
Mr. Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Don't know where to start. I do know that people out there, this went out to whoever wants to bid on it. And like we all know, it doesn't matter. Anybody can bid on this thing, anybody. There's been lobbying going on. And I'm not saying by council members, but we all know there's been lobbying going on outside of council. This road work needs to be done. I know if I lived on these roads, boy, I'd be after us if we put it off any longer. That's all you hear, fix my road, fix my road. Well, we've had a chance to. We did the process. We got the recommendation, and now we're talking about stopping it. Why? Like, I can't understand why. This isn't about who got the job or who didn't get the job. It was who bid on the job, administration, look at all the stats, look at everything. And usually we go with the cheapest. Well, we went with the cheapest and the most expensive this time. And that's not our fault. The decision was made because there was one. The decision was made with our administration, as Deputy Mayor Malai says, because they know what they're doing. And how many times have I said, I don't know anything about the Treasury Department, the clerk's job, Chris's job, anything. That's why we hire these people, you know. And if we're not going to listen to them, why don't we get rid of them? Get rid of them. Get somebody in there that knows what they're talking about. Because obviously, some of us don't feel they know what they're doing. I've heard it said, like, I know more about roads than you do. You know, wow. And this person isn't an engineer. Wow. I can't believe how we're throwing administration under the bus. Like, wow. It's like, it is unbelievable. Time sensitive. Yes, very time sensitive. Just ask any of those people out in those roads. Do you want this done? They wouldn't care if it was $200,000 different, if we knew that. But it wouldn't get there. If we'd have had to, and they took the highest bid, you know darn well administration would have heard from each and every one of us. Then I can understand. Why are we questioning administration. Because why would they do this job and give it to somebody that might be $200,000 more expensive? But that didn't happen, and that's what we're arguing about. Forget that figure that's out there, 150, 180. It didn't happen. So you know how I'm going to be voting. I said enough at our last meeting, and I know I hit some sore spots because people went in and talked to the roads department that we have to understand more about what they do and why they bring that back to us. I want to get reelected this time. They don't. They don't have to get reelected. They just have to give us the right decision to keep their jobs for the town of Essex. They're not worried about getting reelected. They're worrying about hanging on to their jobs, doing the best job for each and every one of our taxpayers.
Point of order. Point of order.
Point of order, sir.
Point of order.
Yes.
And my point of order is this.
Okay.
Even though some in this room feel as though it's political grandstanding,
But he's got the chair.
even though some in this room are suggesting it's political grandstanding, personally myself, it has nothing to do with political grandstanding. It's about the core issue of being responsible to taxpayers. If this issue was being raised on my first week of 2014 of being reelected, my position would be the same. So if you want to include everybody on political grandstanding, keep me out of it. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just about hard work. It's about representing the constituents.
So my point of order on this is that you just expressed your opinion on whether it's grandstanding or not. So I'm going to allow that the mayor continue to think that it is grandstanding. That's fine. Everybody has their own opinion as to whether it is or not.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I think I've hit on pretty well all of them. Like, I just can't understand why our taxpayers out in the country, in wards 2 and 3 primarily, that's all they complain about is their roads. You know, I hear it well, not every day, but we all hear about it. And, oh, next year, we'll do it next year. How many times have we heard that about Irwin Avenue? You know, like, I hear it. We've had them on there the last couple of years, keep taking it off. Probably the worst road in town, and that's right in Essex Center. But these roads out in the county need to be looked after, and I feel our administration is doing the best job to give us those results. So thank you, Mr. Chair. That's the end of mine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll pass the gavel back to you.
Mr. Chair, there's been a recorded vote requested on the motion to receive Infrastructure and Development Report 2018-12 and to award the request for tender as recommended in said report, as moved by Councillor Vokes and seconded by Deputy Mayor Meloche back at the July 16th meeting. Councillor Bondi, how do you vote? Mayor McDermott?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Meloche?
Support.
Councillor Vokes?
Opposed.
Councillor Bjorkman?
Favor.
Councillor Rogers? And Councillor Snively? With a vote of 4 in support and 3 opposed, the motion carries. Okay. Item 8 on the agenda, reports from administration. 8.1, Chief Administrative Officer verbal report on the Essex Town Center Limited rezoning application.
Mrs. Hunter.
Your Worship, I just wanted to talk to council about this and get some idea about how we go forward. Essex Crossing, the development proposed by Mr. Valente. I know Jeff Watson has been working diligently on preparing a report, but I somehow feel that in this time of the council's term, that this is really not a good time for council to be dealing with such a large development. We're talking a development of 400 to 600 homes. Ultimately, even at priced at $200,000, we're looking at $80 million to $120 million worth of sales. we're talking about removing garage restrictions, we're talking about snout houses, we're talking about reduction in exterior, inside yards, or side yards. We're talking about 40-foot lots. We're talking about reducing the amount of pavement in our road. There's a number of different things that we're talking about, something that's going to impact this community for what I believe to be many, many years. I think it should be left and tabled until the new term of council. That's fine.
Okay, any questions of, Councillor Bondi and then Councillor Rogers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with our CAO, Donna Hunter, that it should be tabled, and I don't know if she needs anything from council to do that. But if she does, I'm willing to make a motion.
I'll second that. And you have a comment, Councillor Rogers, like you had? No? Okay. Oh. Okay. Okay, so it's been tabled and seconded. Okay. All in favor? No. No discussion. No discussion on the table. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Table is no discussion. Okay. Recorded vote.
Sorry, just for clarification, the motion is to table the
Till the bylaw for the Essex Town Centre limited rezoning application, because the bylaw was supposed to come forward.
Okay.
To table the bylaw until the new term of council.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yep.
So what we're doing is postponing indefinitely.
To the next term of council.
To the next term of council.
Okay.
It's what she said.
Yeah.
So there is debate allowed. According to Robert's report.
Yeah.
You can't. Go ahead.
I believe this is a motion to postpone, right? And like you said, if that is the motion, there would be discussion entertained on that. There's no, the issue is that we're speaking of a bylaw coming before council, but there is no active bylaw report to table at this time. It's just the subject matter, I believe, that's being postponed itself. And in that case, I believe there is discussion that can follow on that motion.
So, if I may,
So-
there's no motion to be voted upon because there's nothing to make a motion about. The recommendation was to put it off. So we need to make a motion.
My understanding is that the motion would be to postpone this subject matter until the next term of council, for which, once we had a mover and seconder, assuming the current movers and seconders agreed with that motion, then discussion could ensue.
Okay, the clerk has just advised me that she used the wrong wording. So if we can go back to her, we'll be a little clearer what's going on, I think.
Through you, Your Worship, Rob Auger is correct, the clerk is correct in this, and the motion to postpone or defer to a certain time is debatable as to its merits only, with no discussion of the main question, and is amendable only to change the length of the postponement.
The length of time itself, okay.
So I agree, you were right. It's not tabled. We aren't making a motion to table.
So Councillor Bondi, you're still in support of moving
Yes.
that motion?
Yes.
And Councillor Rogers is seconder? Okay.
Okay. Is everyone clear now? I got it now. So, okay, thanks. So there's been a request for a recorded vote.
I believe, so that it's been moved and seconded. I believe there's discussion now, and I would have to confer with Councillor Bondi on the request.
Yep, okay. Councillor Bjorkman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm against putting this off. And just to the motion, I'm against this because this is a project that we've been working on, and I won't even take that. Councillor Vokes has been pushing this project for quite some time. We finally have somebody who's looking to work with us. We are the council of the day. I keep going back to this. I understand we're in a lame duck area, but we are the council, and we need to continue discussing these things, and we should move forward with this. So I'm not in favor of tabling. That's all I'd like to say.
Okay, I have Councillor Vokes and then Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Chair. Look at the criteria for discussions to continue on this file is either defined by a lame duck council or not. And if it falls inside the allowance and it's not a violation of lame duck, then we should move with the file. Be responsible councillors, be a responsible administration. And I hear what Donna's saying. I don't disrespect what she's saying. But we have a responsibility to keep things rolling along where we can legally move things along. And if this isn't fall under the perimeter of lame duck, then we should be moving with it, outside of the sensitivity of it. And that's just my view.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Rogers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe there are other issues concerning this going forward with this. I believe there might be some compromising or that the integrity of the council may have been compromised, and I don't believe that we should be going forward with this at the time. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? If there is no one else, I'll have a...
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to say too much about it either, but I agree with Councillor Rogers. From what I've heard out there, and it's not firsthand, but I think the best thing we could do is put this off to the next council. You know, that's all I have to say, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pass the gavel back to you.
Didn't get to use it. Anyone else? Councillor Vogt?
So I'm really trying to understand the reason why we would all of a sudden have to stop this. Is there a reason? Is there like an elephant in the room right now?
Well, if I may,
Yeah.
Point of order, please.
okay, point of order, sir.
The motion on the table, speak once to it, call the question.
Oh, good point.
And Councillor Bondi, you've still requested a recorded vote on that?
Councillor Vokes did.
Councillor Vokes? Okay, sorry about that. On the motion to postpone consideration of this subject matter to the new term of council, Councillor Vokes, how do you vote? Opposed. Councillor Bjorkman?
Opposed.
Councillor Rogers?
In favor.
Councillor Snively?
In favor.
Councillor Bondi? Mayor McDermott? Deputy Mayor Meloche?
Support.
With a vote of 5 in support and 2 opposed, the motion carries.
Mrs. Hunter, you're up again, please.
Just bear with me for 1 second. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Just give me a second here. The technical difficulty. There we go. Oh, it's report's not showing up.
Do you want to just announce and I can talk about his turn?
Sure you can.
Sure, yeah.
Go ahead.
8.2 on the agenda is the Chief Administrative Officer's verbal report on the momentary outages in the Herald service area.
Mrs. Hunter?
Through your worship, I had an email that was provided or forwarded to me by Councillor Bondi, and it was from Michael Odette, the CEO of ELK Energy. It was sent on August 2nd, and Councillor Bondi had just wanted me to read this to our residents and to council so that everybody was aware of what was going on with the momentary outages in the Harrow service area. Mr. Adet wrote, the most recent update that we have from Hydro One is that based on their crew's availability, they are looking to apply and test the new settings from September 24th to September 26th. The new recloser will then be placed in service on September 26th. I know that there has been a number of recent outages, momentary outages. From what I'm seeing, most of those are Hydro One outages, or outages that are caused by Hydro One. So hopefully, by the time we get to this, that'll resolve some of the problems that we're seeing. So I was just an update for council, and I am leaving the meeting, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you for all your input. Have a great vacation. Any questions, Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, CEO Hunter, for bringing that forward. I think we need to further piggyback on it, though, and take it a step further, because if you live in the Harrow and Colchester area, you really can't walk down the street right now. I've had REFAC has had some major damage to equipment. Sabrina's Wellness Cafe has lost 2 air conditioners. Drifters has lost an exhaust fan on their restaurant. So people are not going to move there. People are not going to open businesses there unless we get it fixed. I believe ELK in its capacity has done everything they can by working with Hydro One. I am convinced that it is not an ELK issue, but I think our council needs to start working with Hydro One now too, in correlation. So actually Mike Audette and I were on the phone a couple of times today, because I was like, Mike, it's all weekend. It was kept going off and going off and going off. Another one at 7:30 this morning. So Mr. Audette has provided our council, or myself, but all of us, with a Hydro One contact. I would really like council support to either send the Hydro One contact a letter or invite the Hydro One representative to our council to reassure our residents that something is going on. So right now, the ELK is putting some messages out there, but they're not going to take responsibility for something that isn't an ELK issue. Hydro One is frankly flown under the radar, so it's our council that's really taking, in particular, S. Bondi is really taking a beating when she walks down the street on this. So I would really like to let the residents know that Hydro One is aware. They're going to solve the problem. They're on the problem. They're aware of it. If residents can get the message that we are aware, that Hydro One is aware, and that we're all working on it, we may have a lot less angry residents. So I don't know, I have this individual's contact. I don't know how to say his or her name. I think it's Chaudhry Musab. But I don't know what council would like to do, but I would like to do something, because we keep waiting and we hope that it's going to get better. But I think we need some level of reassurance that Hydro One is going to build that working relationship with our residents, because not only now are we speaking on behalf of the Harrow residents, the Harrow and Colchester residents are affected daily by this. Alarm clocks, fridges, stoves, and you can't buy a power surge for every single appliance. Well, you can, but it's just not really realistic for every single appliance and every single outlet that you have in your house. It's become really irritating, and people are not going to want to move here and open businesses here.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Rogers?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councillor Bondi. I believe that we should, as a council, write a letter to Ontario Hydro, or on Hydro One, whatever it's called these days, and as well as copy the province of Ontario with the energy minister, and reiterate to them the issues that we have gone through, and that we keep getting told that it's getting fixed, and we certainly hope that by September 26th that it is all behind us, because it is really affecting our residents. And I believe that we should inform them by letter that we are hoping that this will alleviate the issue. And that would be to the contact that Ms. Bondi has indicated, as well as the province of Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to receive the report. And send the letter, all of that stuff, your recommendations, exactly. Councillor Bondi and Councillor Bjorkman, okay. All in favor? Motion carries. Sherry. Okay, just before you...
Mr. Mayor, it's brought to my attention that our youth rep would like to, can we move her up?
Right, and supported by Deputy Mayor Malage, all in favor? Motion carries. Welcome, young lady.
Hi. Okay, so I made a report and I was going to give it last meeting, but I had summer school, so exams were in and I couldn't. But I just wanted to go back to the Essex Youth Center, the carnival. I attended it with my sister, and there was games, there was snacks, there was refreshments, and I'm really glad the center is open for the summer. I think it's really good for our town, and it was a success.
Thank you very much. It was great. Thank you for that. Councilor Oakes.
Ava, I gotta tell you, Ava, you always got something on the go. You never just sit there idle, do you? Huh? You're always doing something, eh? Huh? Good for you.
Eight point 3 is Economic Development Report 2018-07. That said report, providing council with results from the Economic Development Week survey, be received for information purposes.
Moved by Councilor Snively and Councilor Rogers. Supports. Any questions? Councilor Bjorkman.
Thank you, through your worship. Thank you, Mr. Silvera, for the report. Really good data, really good polling. I noticed that it was done in connection with a number of municipalities and Wheatsy. Can you tell the data that you shared with us, was that Essex, town of Essex specific, or was that everybody?
Through your worship, that data is town of Essex specific. There are over nearly 150 respondents, and the data that was given to you, 14% of the respondents were from the town of Essex, of that 150. So actually a pretty good turnout. So all that information is from businesses located in the town of Essex.
Okay, and just and to that data, see the polling regarding. I mean, we got a very good rating regarding the town support. Town supporting businesses, and even with the rating for the town, the taxation that was there, very positive outlook for future employees with hiring. So there was a lot of really good stuff in that to take away from and for us to build on. Probably the biggest negative in that report was actually council issues and unity issues. And I think it's just as important that we take that away and that we make sure that here at the decision-making table and the leaders in our town, we can see right here our businesses are looking for us to step up our game. So it's important to take that data back as well. Thank you, Nelson.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? All in favor? Motion carries.
Eight point 4, Corporate Services 2018-09, revised Schedule A to Bylaw 1328. This is together with Bylaw 1735, which amends 1328, being a bylaw to establish a schedule of fees for planning-related matters. For receipt and 3 readings to Bylaw 1735.
Moved by Councilor Oakes, Deputy Mayor Malash supports. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.5, Clerk's Report 2018-12, quarter revision for Zucker Creek Drain. This together with Bylaw 1734 for 2 readings this evening. Said report for receipt, and that Councilor Rogers and Mayor McDermott be selected and appointed to sit as members of the quarter revision to be held September 17th at 5 p.m. at the Civic Center, and for 2 readings to Bylaw 1734.
Support with a comment?
Moved by Councilor Oakes, supported by Councilor Snively. Yes, sir. Councilor Oakes?
In the event that Councilor Rogers or Mayor McDermott can't make that meeting, advise me and I'll fill in the past.
Thank you for that, sir. Got that down? Yep, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I tell you? Favor. Motion carries.
8.6, Clerk's Report 2018-013, reappointment of quarter revision member for the Shoal Creek Drain, with Town of Amherstburg as the initiating municipality on that drainage project. Said report for receipt, and that Deputy Mayor Malash be selected and appointed to sit as the 3rd member of the quarter revision, to be scheduled for 6 p.m. on September 4th in the Amherstburg Town Council. And further, I should add to that, Mr. Chair, that it was brought to my attention and we inadvertently missed the fact that that is the exact same time as our regular meeting, September 4th. So no official notices have come out, so I've put in a call to Town of Amherstburg to see if that meeting can perhaps be held earlier that evening or on a different date. So it's up to this council if they wish to consider Deputy Mayor Melosh's appointment, and then if there is an issue either with the Deputy Mayor's schedule based on the time that they change, I can come back to the August 21st meeting and for that. All right, we move in a second. Yeah.
So we just need to have this moved, and they'll do whatever they need to do to get a meeting. Okay? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.7, Chief Administrative Officer Report 2018-04, re-spay and neuter program results for the years 2014 to 17 and up to July 17th, 2018 for receipt.
Moved by Councillor Bonnie, supported by Councillor Rogers. Questions? Councillor Bonnie and then Councillor Rogers.
Thank you. I just want to thank staff for the time to do this spay and neuter report. It's really good to see the numbers and use of uptake. And the message I think we need to send out to people is really, if you grab a voucher from Town Hall, please use that voucher. And if it expires, you can get an extension or hand it back in so that somebody else can use it. Ideally, we'd like to see 100% of the vouchers used, because the more vouchers that are used, the more cats that are fixed, then the more, the less kittens that there are. So good information for us to have. I would like that to roll on to the new term of council so that they can see and then work with Alex and the media department to get it out, use it or lose it, and hopefully we'll get more and more cats fixed.
Thank you. Councillor Rogers.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I just wanted to ask a question like that. If these do have an expiration date on them, and how long is that usually? Because I've never seen one of these vouchers, actually.
All right.
I don't have any feral cats. But, do they expire?
Yes,
Through you, Mr. Chair. They're normally 90 days, but they are subject for us to extend them, and certainly we've had waiting lists before, so sometimes we'll call to find out if people that hold them currently intend to use them, so that maybe people on the waiting list can use them, but normally it's 90 days.
Further? Yes, sir.
If I could follow up on that. And do we have a list of participating veterinarians that are not trying to maybe gouge our residents in their in what they actually charge? Because I know there's an upcharge oftentimes with many of the vets from our voucher.
Yep. What I've seen to date is we have a list of participating vets, and I believe that list has maybe changed a little bit from year to year. Some have been added, and from what I've seen, because I normally pay these invoices, or on behalf of the town, we reimburse the vets for the $75 or the $50, however that may be. They seem in line, yes.
Anything further? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 9 was moved up earlier. Item 10, any updates from County Council?
None for me, Mr. Mayor.
No, nor I.
11.1, correspondence to be received, that the correspondence so listed in 11.1 be received and where indicated to further share with the community.
So if we all approve all or receive all of these, and then if you have anything that you want to discuss, we can do then, okay? Moved by Deputy Mayor Melosh, seconded by Councillor Bjorkman. Any one of them anyone wants to talk about? No? Oh, Councillor Bonnie.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm just reading the 11.1.1, Windsor-Essex County Health Unit.
Yep.
And it says, as Windsor-Essex County Health Unit tobacco enforcement officers are responsible for the enforcement of these regulations, please feel free to contact our office. Just as a public service announcement, rather, there's been a lot of smoking of tobacco and maybe other substances down at the harbor. Our administration is aware, and they have sent a letter to our local OPP to ramp up investigation and hopefully finding people. So, because I believe the OPP can also enforce this. So I believe council is aware, there was some pictures that surfaced on the internet, and I sent them to all of council, I think I did, this weekend. So just to kind of piggyback on that. Thank you.
Anything further? All in favor? Motion carries.
Correspondence to be considered for receipt or receipt in support. 11.2.1, Town of Lakeshore, that the correspondence from the Town of Lakeshore advising that they have requested the Ministry of Transportation to consider including information and questions in the driver's handbook and road tests regarding the unsafe temperatures that can be reached in a closed-up vehicle be received or received and supported, and if so supported, that the appropriate letter of support be sent.
Councillor Bjorkman, supported by Councillor Bondi. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
11.2.2, Township of North Stormont, re Ontario's Green Energy Act, for receipt or receive in support, and if council so chooses to support, the appropriate letter of support be sent.
By Councillor Rogers, receive and support, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Questions? All in favor? Carries.
11.2.3, Howick Township, re-support for the township's resolution requesting that the Bereavement Authority of Ontario amend Ontario Regulation 3011 to allow borrowing of funds from the Care and Maintenance Trust Fund for capital improvements and purchases for receipt or receive in support, and if so supported, once again, that the appropriate letter of support be sent.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Vogt, supported by Councillor Rogers. Any questions? All in favor? That motion carries.
11.2.4 is a request for exemptions from bylaws 124 and 690, submitted by Julie Appleby from the Colchester Bar and Grill. The exemptions are being sought for the purposes of holding a family fireworks display. That said correspondence be received or received and supported, and should council be in support, that upon proof of approval from the Essex Fire Department and sufficient proof that neighbors and OPP have been notified, that the exemptions requested be hereby granted.
Councillor Bjorkman moves in support, supported by Councillor Bondi. Questions? Councillor Bjorkman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Mr. Sweet, has CERT been involved at all with this? Have we get the proper approvals?
You, sir?
Through Your Worship, no, due to the timelines, it was after CERT met. However, Deputy Chief did provide with me, because Fire was working with Julie directly. They're doing commercial fireworks, so she has a certified power technician and the proper documentation. So we do have that. As long as all the approvals through OPP and insurance is met, made all the requirements by CERT.
Further?
Yeah, so just to ensure, so the rest of, we can move and support this, and she still needs to complete all of these other in order for it to move forward. Okay, thank you.
Any further? Councillor Bondi? And
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe it can go back to CERT now, because I talked to Ms. Appleby today via text, and she said she's looking at the October 13th date now. So that gives her a little bit more time for approvals, because there's a competing event going on in the neighborhood at that date. So we might have a little bit more time.
Deputy Mayor Meloche.
Just concerns from other events that we've had in urban centers where the neighbors have not been notified. I'm just wondering how extensive is it? Because the music, if they're playing loud music past certain hours, I know that, it creates an upset in the neighborhood. So I'm just wondering, how far out do they have to notify, and how are we sure that they've been notified?
Mr. Sweet?
Your Worship, I have not been involved with the noise bylaw, so I'm not sure. I know we have talked about that at senior management. A concern is if you tell one neighbor and one doesn't agree, so we're not really sure of the process. I'm not sure if the clerk can clarify what's sent out, what needs to be submitted.
Mr. O'Shea?
Through you, Mr. Chair, There is no specified process, and that is something that we're working on clarifying. Normally, we would rely on proof that they've submitted a letter to the local neighbors, but the administration does consider your point. What should be the parameters of that, and we haven't quite clarified that, and that is something we are working on.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad to hear that we're at least working on something. That way we know for going forward that, we can have, I just want to make sure neighbors are notified. So I think there's a good chance that because of the local bar here that she's going to make sure that they're notified.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Rogers.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree that the neighbors certainly need to be notified. However, I believe that the Colchester Bar and Grill is a pretty good citizen out in the village, in that they are constantly they have bans weekly, and I don't know that we've ever really received any complaints from anyone about that. And they do shut down when they need to, at the time they need to, but they do have bans regularly. And we haven't had any complaints about that. Thank you.
All in favor of that motion, then that motion carries.
If I could,
Councilor Vogt.
Not on that, but it's just come to me, my realization. In the absence of Donna, for the purpose of protocol for meetings, should we not have one of the deputy CAO sitting in the chair in her absence?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe Mr. Nepsey is our acting CAO at this moment.
As of right now?
Sure.
I didn't know if that was identified for the purpose of if somebody was to question in the absence of the CAO, right? Yep. So he should actually take that chair.
Then I can't see him.
I do actually.
And then I can't see him.
Please. Because all it takes is one person to challenge the process, and we're in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Not that anybody would, but yeah, I guess you're right, they would. Thanks, Chris.
No, I can't see you.
Item 12 on the agenda, committee meeting minutes. The minutes from the July 19th Fun Fest Committee for adoption is circulated.
By Councilor Vogt, supported by Councilor Bondi. Are we doing with just the one?
Yes.
Top one? Okay. Any questions? Sorry. All in favor? Motion carries.
13.1 under financial, 2018 capital report for the month ending May 31st, 2018 for receipt.
Moved by Councilor Bondi, supported by Councilor Vogt. Any questions? All in favor? That carries.
13.2, 2018 operating expense budget variance for month ending May 31st for receipt as well.
Moved by Councilor Snivy, supported by Councilor Bondi. And any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
And 13.3 bank payments report for June 2018 for ratification as submitted.
Moved by Councilor Bondi, supported by Councilor Vogt. Any questions? All in favor? That motion carries.
Under item 15, notices of motion, the following notices of motions were presented at the July 16th, 2018 regular council meeting and are being brought forward for consideration this evening. 15.1.1, Councilor Bondi, that council have a discussion on recent parking complaints and concerns at the Colchester Harbor and Park and provide direction to administration if applicable, as moved by Councilor Bondi.
Looking for a seconder. Councilor Rogers. Councilor Bondi, any comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's pretty straightforward, and I don't think anybody here is questioning what's going on. We all are aware that there's an issue, and I think that the problem is probably complex, more than one issue. Colchester Harbor is a happening place, and we know that, and we've designed it to be that way, and we're very proud of all the investments that we've put in there. I have some comments from some residents, so I was just gonna read it. There was a lot of traffic down there this weekend, along with hookahs, which are like little pipes that you can put tobacco or other products in. And I guess the police came, they gave them a warning, they put them away. There's no regard for any bylaws. The OPP need to start finding people and make their presence known more, perhaps auxiliary. They really need to work on better beach parking signage. The weekends down at the beach are utter chaos. It's great that it's busy, but it's super frustrating for the residents that have to monitor and explain to people that there's no parking and explaining where to park. My father talked to the OPP yesterday afternoon and expressed concerns about traffic situation, and he was told that he needed to go to a council meeting and let them know what's going on. Also, there needs to be signs up on Richardson Lane, dead end, no exit. I was at my parents' for 4 hours, and there were at least 35 vehicles speeding down that road and turning around and speeding out. There are little children there. It's just dangerous. Thanks again. Just keeping you informed about what's happening there and the frustration of the residents that are there. Also, there is a kid that works at the marina at the top of the hill, and he tried to tell them to please turn down their music. They had an amplifier, and the music they were playing could be heard at the marina. The people completely ignored him. My cousin's girlfriend last weekend went over there, and one of them was smoking in the park, and they told them that that's not allowed, and they tried to get confrontational with her. So she just called the cops. So it just sounds a little, I don't know, Wild West-ish, I should say, and I think we need to really build that relationship with the police, because it is such a destination, but this is a place where people live, and we have to respect that as well, and we have to, I think, open our eyes and ears to the residents' concerns and start right away with doing what we can in terms of, you know, Councillor Baker would say, like the low-hanging fruit. Go for the signage. I really loved what the town did on Explore the Shore. It was great. The painted parking spots at the schoolhouse, that was good. I think we need to train our residents and to train the people that are coming from out of town that that is where you park. That's where you park. Trailer parking only, and then the next term of council has to start talking land acquisition. Absolutely, in my mind, in my opinion, they need to start talking about that because we need more parking. So those are the concerns that I've been hearing. Every time something goes on, my Facebook lights up, and I thought, you know, this council, although we are all singly aware of it, we need to come together as a group and say, residents, we've heard you. This is what we're going to do. And I know Mr. Sweet has some solutions up his sleeve, but I think it's that closing the loop of communication back to our residents, that they are heard and understood.
Thank you for that. Councillor Rogers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I totally agree with Councillor Bondi. We need to get moving down there, but one of the first things that we need to do is protect the residents on Richardson Lane. They are constantly getting cars down there. We need to, and that could, to start with, it just needs lots of signage down there. No parking all along the fence line on Richardson Lane, as well as signage, dead end, no turnaround, don't go down here, that kind of thing. Because they're down there constantly, the cars, and they're turning around and they're disrupting the people on Richardson Lane. We have to protect them first, then look into more parking in the area. And I would agree that the schoolyard is underutilized, and we need to maybe put a permanent parking lot in that facility. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Snively.
Through your worship, another area of concern in there is the trailer parking area. There's people coming up where the boat trailers are supposed to be parked back behind the old restaurant there up above, and they're parking cars all over the place. So when a trailer comes in there, they have a heck of a time parking, and they'll come in there with cars and they'll park them all over the place. I think that's one area that's got to be enforced right there. I don't know how we can do it if we're going to start ticketing people. There's signs there, no parking, trailer parking only, but I think it's got to be enforced. So, thank you.
Anything else? Councillor Votes.
You know, here we go again. We're talking about all the problems, but we're given no direction as a council how to resolve it. We can talk about all the trailers parking there. We can talk about parking there. We can talk about need to get occupy some land, but in the interim, we need to give administration a direction as council what to do starting tomorrow. And that would be, to me, we can put all the signs up we want, and without the police concentration there and actually enforcing, you either can park there or you can't. And if you can't, then it's the direction we should be given to administration through the acting CAO tomorrow, that we identify with the OPP because of the parking problems we're having there and the problems it's creating for the neighborhood. If somebody's parked where they can't be parked, you issue them a ticket. It's not the best thing for our tourist industry, if you will, but at the same time, we have a responsibility to our neighborhood. So I will make that if a motion's required, I'll make that a motion to direct administration to contact the police to start enforcing parking violations in the harbor area. And I'm looking for a seconder.
Okay, we have a motion and a seconder. Now, before I open it up for discussion, I'm going to, Mr. Sweet has comments with regards to what's going on down there presently.
Through your worship, as Councillor Bondi brought up the motion, I don't think this was going to be a surprise to anybody. It's kind of, if you built it, they would come, and that's what's happened. I remember in July 2016, we brought some options to council, and it was kind of, well, let's see what happens. So we're at that point now. Coming forward in the next budget with the next council, we have already options on parking lots. In the short term, we're doing out postcards, feather banners where people can park. We did the lines in the parking lots. The other challenge where we don't have a solution we're looking at is really the ramp itself, because it's down a hill. So the time someone puts a trailer in, park it, still walk down, it's given a backup. So we're looking at other options, even as a golf cart, right? And you have a person trying to speed up that process. So there's a lot of options we're looking at. In the short term, I don't think we can do much other than have the OPP down there, some more signage, definitely the OPP presence, I agree, because that will help, but a lot of it's going to come with the next council and the next budget. It's going to be the big ticket items to actually address this issue.
Okay, thank you for that. I would just like to add that having talked with Mrs. Hunter through discussions with Councillor Bondi, she has already, I believe today, maybe contacted the police department and the health department. She's also going to do that. So, you know, they are working on exactly what Councillor Vokes is asking for right now. Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Along those lines, possibly we could have maybe police cadets down there patrolling, or even a policeman on a regular basis on Saturday and Sunday, on the weekends or long weekends. I know it would be costly, but it's a cost that would possibly be well worth it to alleviate some of the issues that are ongoing down there.
To that point, I think Councillor Snively and I at our next Police Services Board meeting will bring that up for discussion with the chief down there. Okay, thanks. Yeah, motion on the floor. Yes, sir.
Thank you, through your worship. I agree with this 100%. I spent the last 2 weekends down there for most of the time, and I was amazed at how cars were just piling in everywhere. I mean, you put the parking blocks in, we had the lines driven this way. They were parking across the lines, over the curbs. It was amazing how many cars they squeezed into some of those spaces. Again, on Richardson, up at the parking lot behind the harbor, 2 of the signs for sure have been taken down, either got knocked down or hit, but there's 2 against the fence up at the top. One of them's almost all the way over right now, and then where the center line where we have for trailers and vehicles only, there was only 1 sign left up closest to the harbor. There's nothing the rest of the way, and I actually went down just to take a couple of pictures, and was getting back to my car, and this guy had just come up from the beach, and he's looking at his car and the car parked behind him, and he's got 2 curbs and a parking curb in front of him, and he couldn't get out because the person that parked in behind him thought he could pull out straight, like he never looked, right? There just looked like there was room for 2 cars. So we really do have to help them with that signage down there to make sure people are really aware of where they should and shouldn't be. And then I agree with Councillor Rogers, we need to increase our presence there, even if it's just for the next month on the weekends. Yeah, that's going to cost us something, but there are conflicts that are going on that could cost us more. So I would be interested in looking into that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sweet?
To your worship, just a reminder to council too, probably about a month ago, council did approve a revision to the parking bylaw in that area, so now police do have some teeth to actually ticket, so, which wasn't there previously.
Okay, with that, I think, yes, you may be the last one.
Thank you,
We
Mr.
have a
Mayor.
motion on the floor. Yeah, you spoke, and I think Deputy Mayor Malash is the only one that hasn't. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been down there the last 2 weekends too. They had, Explore the Shore 2 weekends ago, and then down with family members again this weekend. And it was crazy. The parking was crazy. What I can say though is people were very courteous and allowing people to walk across the street. People weren't trying to run over anybody. Everybody was driving slow, which was really nice to see, because in some situations people might get irate and try and run over people or whatever. But no, it was really nice to see that people were being courteous. But I did note that there were a lot of people that didn't really know where there was parking. And there were even people that were rolling down windows. Does anybody know where I can park? Asking questions. So I do believe that we got to have better marking as to where people can park once for overflow and that kind of thing. Locals knew where to park, but the people that were coming from out of town were totally clueless as to where they should be going. Richardson Lane, too, I think that there's a problem there, too. I don't know, on the reports that we have maybe coming up for the next council in the budget, that we should include maybe some kind of turnaround right at that spot. Because what happens is you get in there and you're landlocked and you don't realize there's no signs there that say no entry or don't go down here, dead end, or anything like that. Even if it said private drive, even though it's not, say private drive there just so that people don't go down. And then have a roundabout right there, kind of like just enough that you can turn around and circle out. But what happens is you get down the end, because it happened to me on the weekend too. I got down there looking because I thought there was a parking spot near the washrooms. And when I got down there, it was a little car that was pulled up too far, like quite a ways up, and you couldn't see that there wasn't a parking spot there. Then I'm trying to turn around. I knew I didn't want to go down Richardson Lane because, no. So I was trying to turn around, but it's very difficult once you're stuck there. So need to try and somehow resolve that issue. Thanks.
Okay, so.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just a procedural point. We still have a motion, the original motion is still on the floor, and that's for council to have a discussion and to provide direction to administration if applicable. And so through you, Mr. Chair, I would ask the original movers if they wish to incorporate some of those directions that were given by some of the other councillors as part of this motion. And if you could clarify that for me.
Councillor Bundy, Councillor Rogers.
Sure. That council provide administration with more direction to increase signage in the Colchester Harbor area, particularly to do a no exit dead end on Richardson Lane sign, and to ask that our police increase presence down in that area.
Councillor Rogers agrees. With that, all in favor? Oh.
Sure. I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay, like I said before, we'll make sure we talk with the police department at our next meeting. Okay, thank you. All in favor? Motion. Councillor Rogers.
Well, we're talking about bylaws, and we're talking about Colchester. I'd just like about the smoking issue that was brought up as well. We have teeth in our parking bylaw now, I understand. Do we have any teeth in our smoking bylaw, and what would be the actual, how would we reprimand somebody that is smoking in the park? Do we have any answer to that?
Mr. Sweet.
Through your worship, we met again with the health unit on June 16th because they were looking at the possible revision to Smoke Ontario. We brought up Colchester at that time. It is one of the most popular beaches that they send their enforcement, and as today when I received the email for Councillor Bondy, I contacted them again, and they're going to send their enforcement more often. They're the ones that can enforce it, is the health unit. Yeah, they're the ones that can do tickets.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what kind of a fine or what kind of a ticket this is? What kind of a hit it is to them? No?
Through your worship, I do not, but that's a good question. I can find out and send it out to council.
Thank you for that. We talked about this.
15.1.2 is our second notice of motion for discussion and consideration. Councillor Bondi, that council request a report for administration on the last 4 years uptake up for free room.
Well, Beth, she's made the motion. If we get a seconder, we can approve it, can we not? Sorry.
Yeah, it's, so through the chair, that was the CAO's report from earlier this evening.
Okay, so that was, we're okay with that. No, I think,
And or table it, or
wait, yeah, we'll just move on, come back to it, that's all.
okay. And the only other notice of motion, but it was added to the adopted agenda just for presentment, no debate, was Councillor Vogt's request for a bench to be provided for the long-term care facility at Idler Lodge. So that's been noted for the record. It'll come back to the August 20th meeting.
Okay.
For you, Mr. Chair, we'll come back to items 15, the two remaining, or the one remaining notice of motion. Okay. Okay, so item 16, any reports and announcements from council this evening?
Okay, Councillor Bjorkman, coming your way. Nothing. Councillor Vogts.
No reports, but just, I know we had asked when the Liberal government was in power that we send a letter to the health minister, and since then the PCs have taken over and there's been a new health minister put in place. So that letter that I requested be sent to try to deal with the deplorable conditions in our hospitals today, especially that of our emergency care. I was just wondering if that letter could be forwarded to the new PC health minister from this council, requesting their presence here to discuss with us the concerns of the long-term care or the health care in our region.
We have Mr. Nepsey has comment for that.
Through your worship, I think the letter is not an issue for the letter. I just wanted to also add that I will be attending the AMO conference in Ottawa, and we have a meeting with representatives from the Minister of Health, and I've got some very, we have a letter directly corresponding to that, as well. I've got my own personal dealings that I can bring to that, which will hammer home our point in terms of waiting room and emergency room stuff.
But with a but coming, the request of him, he or she actually attending this council to discuss with us would certainly be beneficial to our area.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can certainly forward that letter to the new minister.
Yes.
Yep. And in addition, your worship,
Yes,
that's also part of the discussion.
Okay, great.
That comes through in the discussion.
No other report.
Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, through your worship. I just have one reminder. There's the Steam and Gas Engine Show Parade is on this coming Saturday, and we will be in the parade, which starts at 9 o'clock. If you want to be part of the parade, any of our council members here, it'll start, we're asked to be there around between 8:30 and 9, but the parade always starts punctually at 9 o'clock, and it doesn't take that long. It's usually about a half an hour to get from St. Clement's Church parking lot or in front of our community center that we have in McGregor. Takes Walker Road up the 11th concession to Coan Park. Like I said, about a half an hour of your time gives you an opportunity to greet and hand out candy to residents, actually on both sides of the road, Amherstburg and Essex. I know. We have the Amherstburg councillors that come along as well to hand out candy on the Amherstburg side. So, but that's all I have for tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Rogers?
Nothing today.
Thank you. Councillor Snively? Okay, I'll take Councillor Bondi's spot. No, I have really good news. I have and this has got nothing to do with the town, but it's great news. I have a 9-man baseball team, great-grandsons. They're all boys. I had my first great-granddaughter at 144 this morning, early, 6 weeks, 4 pounds, 14 ounces. I've already got a job for her. She's going to be our bat girl. We got 9 players and 1 bat girl, so, wow, proud grandpa. Great grandpa, I should say, sorry. Councilor Bondi, is she ready to come back yet? If she isn't, we can do these other things, and, yeah, we can do the bylaws, Ron. Okay, go ahead.
Bylaws for third and final readings, bylaw 1715.
So moved by Councilor Snively, supported by Councilor Vokes. Any questions? All in favor? One more, we need one more. All in favor? That motion carries.
1731 for third and final reading.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Meloche, supported by Councilor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? That motion carries.
17.2 bylaws for first, second, third, and final reading this evening. 1733.
Moved by Councilor Vokes, supported by Councilor Snively. Any questions? All in favor? Carries.
And 1736, also for 3 readings this evening.
Moved by Councilor Bjorkman, supported by Deputy Mayor Meloche. Any questions? All in favor? That motion carries. Councilor Rogers.
Yes, in quickly speaking with Councilor Bondi, the first one was taken care of through and the second one, I will move to table it until next meeting.
Okay, can we have that motion?
Okay. Motion to table, supported by Deputy Mayor Meloche. All in favor? That motion's carried. Thank you.
Going back to items 17.3 bylaws for first and second readings, 1732 being the confirming bylaw for this meeting this evening.
Moved by Councilor Bjorkman, supported by Deputy Mayor Meloche. Questions? All in favor? That motion carries. Looking for adjournment. Councilor Bjorkman, Councilor Vokes, all in favor. Motion carries. Have a great week, everyone.